How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Scream, the original movie from 1996. This is directed by Wes Craven and is written by Kevin Williamson and stars Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox. Well, and also a lot of other great people like Jamie Kennedy, Fonzie, live-action Shaggy. There's a lot of cool people in this movie. A really solid cast there. And this was the movie that got 90s slashers going. This is a big, important movie and really did change a lot. Now, one thing we should know with Wes Craven is he has a big history in slashers. In the proto-slasher era, he made things like Last House on the Left, which is a true crime-styled proto-slasher, and he also made like Hills Have Eyes, which is very much in a similar vein to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So he was working on these things before they really were slashers, and then when John Carpenter came out with Halloween, got the 80s slashers going, after a few years they had started to lose a little bit of steam, and he came out with A Nightmare on Elm Street and kicked the slasher genre back going again. A Nightmare on Elm Street introduced supernatural elements as well as humor. So he really got the slasher genre going again, and it made it much more creative. Now, this was over 10 years later, in the 90s, and the slasher genre by the 90s had really slowed down and died down a bit. But with Scream was 90s cool. Scream was a mystery, and mysteries had kind of fallen out of the slasher subgenre. They were really big, especially in proto-slashers. Think Giallo and how many of those were mysteries. He brought those back, but he also brought back, introduced rather, meta humor, self-referential material. The characters in this movie were aware of slasher movies. They knew the rules, and they talked about slashers in a slasher. And overall, this is the movie that got 90s and early 2000s slashers going, and this is the second time Wes Craven kick-started the slasher genre, got the whole thing going again, and I have to really give the guy major props for that, you know. John Carpenter obviously started the boom, but Wes Craven kept it going twice, which is a huge accomplishment, and so many movies came spinning out of Scream, you know. So this is a big, important film, and this is one of those films that is so big and so important that I'll try my best to say everything I want to say, but I know there'll be things that after I post this review, I'll be like, I should have talked about this or that, you know. So a lot to say with this film. Really big, really important. And without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about the plot a little more specifically. Now, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, especially because this one's a mystery and I really don't want to give that away. But I do want to say my piece on some of the plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. So we open up with a very classic scene. This opening scene, if it was released just as the opening scene as like a short film, I think people would still talk about it. But the first opening scene, you get Drew Barrymore. She's alone at her house, and she's going to cook popcorn and watch some scary movies. Now, she's alone, and she gets a phone call on the landline before the days of caller ID, so she doesn't know who it is, and at first she thinks, oh, is this someone I know? And it's like, no, this is someone new. We don't really know who this is, but he seems nice. You know, they start to chit-chat, and he's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, just watching scary movies. Oh, really? What's your favorite scary movie? And they talk about horror movies that we as an audience have seen, real horror movies. And she eventually starts to shut this guy down. Look, you're nice, but I don't know you. I really shouldn't be talking to you. I have to go about my day. And then, like a switch turning, he quickly becomes psychotic. And it becomes clear that she's in danger and this guy might be right outside. And he starts to torment her. You like scary movies? Well, let me ask you some horror movie trivia, So he starts to torment her, asking her questions. You'll survive if you can get these questions right. A really good example of the scary caller trope that we had seen before in Black Christmas and One Missed Call. And it's really cool to see it come up again here, But anyway, after this attack on Drew Barrymore, a big name, after she's attacked, the school is in a media circus, and we're introduced to Neve Campbell, who plays Sydney Prescott, who, it seems like she's an ordinary girl, but we find out there's something pretty big with her. You see, the town is quiet, nothing happens in Woodsboro, but 1 year ago, almost to the day, her mother was murdered, and that was the last big thing that happened. So the fact that there's another killing out of the blue in a town that never has this, that's a big deal, and it's going to be working at her. And, there's reporters everywhere, it's a big media circus. But then when she gets home that night, she gets the mysterious phone call, and Ghostface attacks her. So this movie really doesn't waste any time getting Ghostface to the final girl. A lot of other slashers, the final girl and the slasher, sometimes they don't even meet until the final chase scene. But here, Ghostface is going right after her, and there's lots of attacks. And another thing, too, when Ghostface is attacking her, she can fight back. And that's one of the things I like. Ghostface is just a human, no big crazy supernatural powers. So if you punch Ghostface, you'll knock him down. And he's one of the slashers you can fight back against. He's still tough, he's still scary, and he'll definitely get up if you knock him down, but he's a killer that you can fight against if you're smart. So I really do like that. But anyway, after Ghostface attacks Sydney, and the fact that her mother's murder was the last big thing to happen in this town, they begin to suspect, hey, these might be connected. The killer might be coming after you specifically. This whole thing may revolve around you, which is really interesting. But in addition to the plot, a really good mystery, a whodunit that leaves you guessing for a lot of it, and does have a pretty fun payout. But in addition to that, Scream is heavily built on its characters, and the characters here are all really, really good. The biggest for the plot is you have Sydney's boyfriend, Billy Loomis. Loomis, an obvious nod to Sam Loomis. But Billy Loomis, their relationship was going pretty good until her mother's death. Billy would have this speech about how we were rated R and on our way to an NC-17, but after your mom died, now we're just edited for TV, So their relationship crashed because Sydney's traumatized and he wants to build it up again. However, after Ghostface's initial attack, he shows up really quickly and Sydney goes, "It was you. You attacked me." And he goes, no, I just showed up because I'm your boyfriend. And they lock him up, and while he's in jail, Ghostface calls Sydney again, and she realized, oops, I just accused my boyfriend of murder when we were already on the rocks, and then with this phone call, it proves he's innocent. So, yeah, you just accused your innocent boyfriend of murder. That's gonna be something she's gonna have to figure out how to deal with. In addition to all the other characters, her friends include her boyfriend's best friend, played by Matthew Lillard, who's a really good over-the-top high school student. Several great lines. Stu, is his name, and he's a really good character. You also got his girlfriend, who's good friends with Neve Campbell, but you also got Jamie Kennedy playing Randy, and he works at a video store, so when he sees all this stuff happening, he says, "Oh, this is just like scary movies," and he has this scene in the video store where he's like, "We should suspect that person. Here's why. Haven't you seen Prom Night?" Now, when people talk about this movie and its meta humor, it does do that when no other movie really did it before, or at least not to this extent. But a lot of people play up how much it does this, but really it doesn't wink and nod at the camera too much. Instead it says, hey, these are real kids that live in the real world, and when things like this happen, they're going to turn to the movies that you and I have seen. And it really just feels natural, especially in the first movie. It will get more and more meta as time goes on, but in the first movie, they just feel real, and that's really, really important. But in addition to the kids, we have some good characters. Matthew Lillard's girlfriend, her older brother, is Deputy Dewey, played by David Arquette. And I really do love this character. It's her older brother, so they think of him rather, as the goofy older brother, and he's like, no, I'm a serious officer now, and no one really takes him seriously, and he's a great, lovable character. And then you also get Gail Weathers, a reporter, the reporter that sticks her nose in things a little too much, and overall, she's a character that works, but really, surprisingly so, because you hear this character on paper, you think this is going to be the annoying character, but she actually works really well. Part of the reason for that is, you see, Sydney and her have a rivalry because she wrote a book saying that when Sydney's mother was murdered, she accused the wrong man. So she is trying to help someone out and get them out of jail, even if it is just for a selfish reason. It's still a noble thing to do to try to free someone, so that helps her look better. But also she does develop this really fun relationship with Dewey, where even though they're two polar opposite people, they somehow really click pretty well, and that was really fun as well. But anyway, in addition to all these characters, the atmosphere, the teenagers, the high school, it all feels really real. You get idiot teenagers doing idiot teenager things like, someone was killed in this common Halloween mask? Let's go to the store and buy that mask and run around school like idiots. Very realistic teenager stuff. You know, someone's killed and they find out they get off of school early and they're like, woo, we get off of school early. Not, oh man, someone was killed. And then they get super upset when they find out they have a curfew and they decide, hey, instead of this curfew thing, let's go to a house party. You know, so really, really realistic teenagers. And then the media circus that erupts around the killings, you know. In a lot of other slashers, someone's killed and it's, you know, more or less maybe you'll get a funeral or something. But here, when there's murders in a small town, everybody shows up. The reporters and police are everywhere, and it really is that media circus, which hasn't really been done too often in slashers before. So it really is this realistic world, you know? But, you know how I said all the teens said, hey, screw the curfew, let's go to a party? That is another big, cool thing with Scream, is it has like this 40 or so minute climax where they're at the party, and that scene really is awesome. It's a very long scene, lots of great kills, a good chase through this big house in the middle of nowhere, and it's really long too. So I really do love the climax of Scream. That's part of what made it a big movie. You know, it's not just that it's cool or self-referential, it's still a really good slasher, you know? So definitely, if you're slasher fans, check this out. This revolutionized 90s and early 2000s horror for a reason. And a lot of the sequels are pretty good too, but still the first one's easily the best. And I really do love this movie. Wes Craven already gave us Freddy Krueger, who is so iconic, and now he gives us Ghostface, a second really cool iconic character, and you gotta love it. So yeah, Scream is a classic for a reason, and I definitely like it. Now, the new Scream movie, also called Scream, is coming out pretty soon, and actually, the day I post this might be the day it comes out, or around that time. And I'll get to that one pretty soon, and I'll also get to covering the sequels. I'll try to get all the sequels done in January as well. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more, this should be my slasher movies playlist, where I've talked about the first 6 Halloween movies, the first 4 Friday the 13th. I've talked about things like A Bay of Blood and Black Christmas and all the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. So if you want to hear me talk about more slashers, there's a pretty long playlist right here. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.